9:30.
Good morning, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order this morning. I want to apologize in advance because I do have a little bit of a cold, so I'll try not to get too hoarse during the meeting. We have two supervisors that will not be attending in person today. They are Supervisor Hildy Angus and Supervisor Steve Moss, and I believe we have them both present by telephone. Is that correct, Jenny?
That's correct. Supervisor Moss
Yes, thank you.
and Supervisor Angus.
Here.
Okay, do we have a pastor that will be leading us with an invocation this morning? Okay, I guess I'll stumble through it. If you'll all stand and bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come before you today to give you honor and praise. We thank you for our great country, and we ask your divine wisdom for all of our leaders here today. May we be given the wisdom and courage in the decisions we make. We ask that you guide and direct our meetings so that it's full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. We thank you for the accomplishments of reaching our goals, and we pray these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Supervisor Watson, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to call for an executive session to be held November the 2nd, 2015 at 9:30 a.m. or at the conclusion of the regular meeting, whichever is later, for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03A3 and 4, and to discuss items noticed on the agenda with an asterisk.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to the official business to come before the board this morning. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Do we have any?
Supervisor Bishop, I have none at this time that I am aware of.
Okay, we do have one item started for executive session, number 38. I'll entertain to have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the possible action reference to development of specific questions to be submitted to Jeffrey A. Burnick of Jackson Lewis to determine the legal parameters of the board's authority to make policy changes to employee benefits, including leave policies. We do have a motion by Supervisor Watson. Could I have a second?
Actually, the motion was made by Supervisor Johnson, and I'll second the motion.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected. Motion by Supervisor Johnson, seconded by Supervisor Watson. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will be adjourning into executive session for just a short period, and then we'll be back out. Okay, call this meeting back to order. We're finished with the executive session on item number 38, and I believe Chief Deputy Rodney Head wanted to speak on this issue? No. No? Okay, my mistake. All right, we'll go on to official business to come before the board. Item number 2, committee and/or legislative reports. Supervisor Watson, do you have anything?
Nothing this morning.
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Desert Landscape Conservation Group put together a webinar. It was presented by Dr. Heather Bateman, an associate professor from the Arizona State University. It went over the effects of the salt cedar and its management along our Virgin River. It spoke about the project on the Virgin River that started in 2009 and concluded last year. The project's objective was to relate variation in herpetfauna abundance to changes in habitat caused by various uses for the tamarac's biocontrol and riparian restoration. From 2004 to 2014, they measured vegetation, monitored at locations affected by the biocontrol along the Virgin River and the Mohave Desert. Their tests focused on areas near the Arizona Strip and stretched into Utah and Nevada. Altogether, 21 sites were divided into 4 riparian stand type based on density and percent covered of the dominant trees and occurrence of restoration. Restoration activities consisted of mechanically removing the non-native trees, transplanting native trees, and restoration of hydrological flows. Restored sites had 3 times more total lizard and 8 times more yellow-backed spiny lizards captured than any other stand types. Dr. Bateman mentioned that the project was funded by the United States Bureau of Reclamation and Desert and Southern Rockies Landscape Conservation Cooperative. The 3 main objectives of the study were to determine if the wildlife in these areas could respond to changes in the thermal environment and respond to structural changes in habitat and to novel food sources. In order to find the results, they did various field studies, such as monitoring wildlife through capturing and mark release specific reptiles, along with a very intensive study of control on the beetle. They compared stand types and biocontrol by mixing stands with salt cedar and native trees. They then compared the before and after comparisons. The results showed that there was an abundance of lizard community in the mixed stands with lower densities of salt cedar. They did observe that the population of the beetle was much more abundant when salt cedar was introduced to the area. In fact, the beetle would jump from the test site to test site with areas that were more populated with the salt cedar. The study showed that biocontrol alters the microclimate of habitats. After defoliation, sites become slightly hotter and dry and green biomass is reduced. These effects can be seen for years following. In the results of this occurs, they saw a decrease in the lizard population. They had few lizards captured in 2004 than any other time during the study. The next part of their study revealed that when more salt cedar was planted alongside the restoration of restoring native plants, the lizard population grew. Other amphibious species saw the same growth in these areas. They concluded by saying that restored sites likely supported higher abundances of these species. We also had the National Association of Counties was putting on cybersecurity webinars throughout the month of October in honor of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. One of the webinars they put on focused on creating a culture of cybersecurity at work. There were 3 guest speakers who participated in the webinar and did an excellent job of explaining how employers can help their employees become more aware of the dangers of cybersecurity. Ralph Johnson, Chief Information Security and Privacy Officer for King County, Washington, spoke about why we need a culture of cybersecurity. He spoke on high-profile cybersecurity incidents and revealed the true impact of a data breach can have on an organization. It is time that business recognize the need for a new approach to protecting sensitive information due to an increase in data breaches. Cybersecurity is becoming a part of our culture, and it's important that everyone has the knowledge and tools to prevent and address security issues. He listed a number of breaches and the records from the last 5 years. He noted these numbers are only from breaches that were actually made public and reported. In 2005, there were 136 breaches with 52,821,610 records affected. So far this year, we've had 116 breaches with over 132 million records affected. On average, 1.1 million records are affected per each breach. He mentioned that the cost associated with these data breaches are rising. According to the Institute and IBM, the average cost of a data breach has increased 23% since 2013. Next, he gave tips for creating a culture of cybersecurity. The first tip he gave was to ensure that businesses know the risks facing them and maintain an up-to-date inventory of their organizational assets. It is also important that they perform assessments on a regular basis and stay up to date with new and evolving threats that may increase risk or create new ones. Next, he gave it a tip is to make sure organizations are implementing policies, procedures, and practices for data security. Policies should address issues such as acceptable use, email, passwords, social media, and backup and recovery. Policies should be easily accessible to all employees and should not be so restrictive or onerous that they discourage compliance. Along with policy, there should also be consequences for noncompliance to make employees see data security as a part of their job responsibility. Another best practice is to extend cybersecurity awareness outside of the offices. Employees are more likely to pay attention when organizations stress the importance of data protection in their personal family life as well as the workplace. He also mentioned that training should be mandatory when it comes to cybersecurity and carried out on a regular basis. Mock exercises, exams, or interviews can verify that employees understand the training materials, while surveys and other resources can help evaluate the program's efficiency and identify areas for improvement. Mr. Peter Romness, a cybersecurity solutions lead for the U.S. public sector, talked next. He started off by talking about what a life of a hacker is like. He said that it is sending phishing emails to about 10 employees can get a hacker inside corporate gates 90% of the time. Attackers use these phishing techniques because they work and because the less sophisticated approach draws less security or scrutiny from defenders. Mr. Romness spoke about the importance of involving employees in cybersecurity protection. He said to make it a team effort by highlighting the importance and benefits for everyone, such as personal protection, organization and reputation, trust and reward, positive actions and results. He said effective workplace training should be brief, but engaging, frequent, achievable, persistent, and consistently most fun of all. Benjamin Schreiber with the Department of Homeland Security was the last to speak about practicing good cybersecurity. Also, proactive private information and being good online steward are the top priorities when it comes to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity should be implemented in every aspect of an organization, from policies to risk assessment. He spoke briefly about what the Department of Homeland Security can do for organizations. They offer free assessment of a company's cybersecurity policy. He said it's important that the IT play a major role in a business and that employees understand the role of IT and the importance they do in keeping the organization safe. Also have an update from D.C. The situation in Congress is more muddled than ever before due to leadership vacuum in the U.S. House. This is coming from Mr. Robert Wiedner. The government is currently operating on a temporary continuing resolution which expires in mid-December. Senate Energy Committee Chair Lisa Murkowski was successful in including the balance of the PILT monies owed to counties for 2015. They'll let us know as soon as those checks are ready to cut. To sum it up, it is possible, but not yet certain, that PILT funding for next year in the approximate amount of $450 million nationally for all PILT counties could be attached to the next continuing resolution, which must be passed in December. For long-term, multi-year PILT funding, House Natural Resources Committee Chairman Bishop continues to work at revamping the Land and Water Conservation Fund, authorization to cover both PILT and conservation needs with an emphasis on funding for state and local governments, as opposed to the widely disliked use of that fund for private land acquisition, increasing federal land ownership at the expense of the local tax base. And we've long been an advocate, and NACO counties have passed a resolution supporting a full-blown audit of federal land holdings and receipts as a way to demonstrate the need for accelerated natural resources activity on federal lands as a source of new funds to pay for the long-term PILT commitment to the public land counties. With respect to continuing secure rural school payments, after Congress agreed last spring to fund both 2014 and 15, Chairman Bishop made it very clear he wants the Senate to take up his active national forest management bill before he agrees to any more SRS funding. Since the Senate has yet to advance active national forest management by failing to take up the House passed bill. That makes the likelihood of additional SRS payments very tough. That said, working closely with the forest products industry to encourage senators to oppose to active management to work with the House and to come up with a bill that addresses both streamlining firefighting and front-end fire prevention through active management. That's all I had, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Angus, do you have any reports?
No.
Thank you. Supervisor Moss, do you have any?
The report on the legislative summit will be, I guess, addressed more fully at our next regular board meeting, so I'll always hold my comments until then.
Okay, thank you very much. County Administrator, do you have a report for us?
I have no report today, Madam Chairman.
Okay, going on to the next item, I'll entertain a motion to approve the September 28th, 2015 Board of Supervisors PTO workshop minutes.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Going on to the call to the public, I have no one that has signed up to speak this morning. As a courtesy, I'll ask one more time if there's anyone that would like to speak on a non-agendized item. Seeing none, I'll close the call to the public and move on to the consent agenda. The items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. Would any of the board members, starting with Supervisor Johnson, like any item removed?
None, Madam Chair.
Okay, Supervisor Watson?
I have no items for removal.
Supervisor Angus?
No, none this morning.
And Supervisor Moss?
None.
Okay, I will be pulling item 27, as I have a couple of people that have signed up that would like to speak on that. So with that in mind, may I have a motion to approve items 5 through 34 minus item number 27?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Going on to item number 27. Authorize the Public Works Director to approve an application for a special event permit for the use of the Mohave County right-of-way for a vendor exhibit event and off-road poker run in the Topok area and manage and control traffic throughout the area and further endure no undue impact to Mohave County rights-of-way along the poker run route for a Topok Desert Trump-Off Road Expo and Poker Run event to be held on November the 7th, 2015, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. upon fulfillment of applicable Mohave County Public Works special event permit requirements.
Madam Chair, are these people opposed to this?
No, I think one is at least in favor as the promoter, and the other person, I'm not sure. Okay, so I'll call up Autumn Boyle Robinson. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Autumn Boyle Robinson. My address is 14999 Route 66, Topok, Arizona.
Okay, tell us what you'd like us to hear this morning, please.
Sure. I did meet with the other gentleman who had the issues, and I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I won't butcher it. But I did meet with him, and we discussed the areas of concern, and we have revised our route to go around that area so we don't cause any further damage to Polaris Road across the Sacramento Wash. And we have kept our route away from that particular area. We've also agreed to, in our mandatory drivers meeting, to make sure all of the drivers are aware that there is private property out there, and they are to stay away from the private property, that they are allowed to use our route, which has been approved by the private property owners, and to drive with caution and be polite and courteous, and to make sure that they abide by all the rules.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person is Mr. Chuck DeShazier. If you would come forward and let us know whether you're in favor or opposed and what's on your mind.
Yes, my name is Chuck DeShazer, 7978 Polaris Road. Initially, at your last meeting, I spoke in opposition to this event because there was a wash that was a major concern to me about running the number of vehicles through there. At this time, after she's rerouted the event, I support what they're going to do, assuming that the rains don't have them reroute it somewhere else, because it's going through the Sacramento wash and you can't get to and from Topak, let alone go on this event if the rains continue. Having said that, this wouldn't have even become an item in any way, shape, or form had the county performed their duties of maintaining Polaris Road, where they had installed 2 4.5-foot drainage pipes and put a land bridge across the wash of concern. And when those ended up in the Colorado River due to whether it be the Public Works or the Flood Control District or the Board of Supervisors, everybody seems to pass it off to one another that particular wash is now no longer maintained for whatever reason. So we currently have 2 pieces of county equipment, I guess, down in the Colorado River where they washed out in 2005 and 2010. I just ask that in the future, you maintain what you've installed. And that's all I have to say if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Second motion.
Motion to approve by Supervisor Johnson, seconded by Supervisor Watson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, going on to the regular agenda, item number 36, discussion and possible action reference approve the Workforce Development Board designation of the Mohave La Paz Workforce Development Board pursuant to Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, Public Law 113-128, and authorize the chairman of the Board of Supervisors to sign the Workforce Development Designation forms for the governor's certification. Okay, Ms. Susie Duranzo. Good morning, Susie.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Bishop, and members of the board. I would like to give just a very, very brief background on this item so that the Board of Supervisors would probably get the recent information about the transition we're going through as part of the legislation that was passed. Okay, just a brief background. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act was passed on July 22nd, 2014. For people who have been around Mohave County and around our area, this goes back to the 60s when the CEDA program was imposed, in the 70s when the Job Training Partnership Act was also passed as a legislation. In 1998, we have the Workforce Investment Act program, Investment Act legislation that was passed. And last year, on July 22nd, they decided to change the legislation to the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It is to amend the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act, the Wagner-Peiser Act, and the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It is effective July 1, 2015, which is the starting of the fiscal year. And it is designed to help job seekers access employment, education, training, and support services. It is intended to match employers and skilled workers as they need to compete in the global economy, and to increase access and equal opportunity for individuals and disabilities, individuals with disabilities to employment, education, training, and support services. The vision of the new legislation is this: the needs of business and workers drive the workforce solutions. So we now include the needs of our businesses. The one-stop centers provide excellent customer service and focus on continuous improvements. We've probably heard about our one-stop centers, career centers, and they are the focus of this legislation. We have the workforce system supporting a strong regional economies and play an important role in the community and workforce development. The key dates of the legislation is this. It was signed into law in July 22nd, 2014. It went in effect July 1, 2015, and it will have a full effect on July 1, 2016. So we're currently in the transition period with this fiscal year. July 1, 2015, and July 1, 2016 is the transition period that we have to go through. Part of the legislation is also the creation of the regions. Right now, our area is Mohave, La Paz County. We are now a region, but the law, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, may include other counties to be part of our region. So the governor must develop a policy for designation of a region prior to the submission of the State Unified and Combined Act early next year. A region may compose of a single local area, 2 or more contiguous local areas with a state, or 2 or more contiguous local areas in 1 or more states. So that would be a region. We also have the designation of the local workforce development areas. Right now, we have Mohave La Paz Mohave La Paz Workforce Development Area. It is a local area serving a jurisdiction for the administration of the workforce development activities and the execution of the adult, youth, and dislocated workers, and having funds allocated by the state. So what that means is we're waiting for the governor to designate a region more than Mohave La Paz, and that's still forthcoming, maybe early next year. On June 1st, 2015, our Board of Supervisors, Mohave County Board of Supervisors, and La Paz Board of Supervisors designated Mohave La Paz Workforce Development Area. So we had that designation. And part of the designation that was still awaiting for the approval of the governor must show that we, Mohave La Paz local workforce area, has performed successfully in the past 2 years, which we have, and we also maintained fiscal integrity of our program, which we also have. So we're still waiting for that designation. What you have in front of you is the designation of the board. It used to be called Mohave La Paz Local Workforce Investment Board, known shortly as LWIB. Now it will be known as Mohave La Paz Workforce Development Board. It is pretty much the same board, but it focuses with these responsibilities. This board would serve as a strategic convener and promoter and broker of the relationships among local elected officials, economic, education, and workforce partners. They also integrate and align a more effective and job-driven workforce development system. And thirdly, they select the one-stop operators through a competitive process. This is a new responsibility of the board. They also enter into a memorandum of understanding with the chief elected officials to deliver the one-stop services. So basically what you have in front of you is the composition of our board, and we meet the requirements of the law. And based on the slide, the new composition of our board should show 20% workforce group people, 2 small businesses, small or large business, and 5 partners. What we have done is we took the membership of our old board, asked the members if they want to be retained or reappointed, and the others, they decided to move on. We have reduced the membership of our board from 38 members to 30 members. And what in front of you is the documentation indicating the membership of this board. We're asking our chairman of the Board of Supervisors, which is Mohave and La Paz, to certify the board that you have in front of you, and then we submit it to the governor for certification. That's the background of the item on the agenda, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any of the supervisors have any questions for Mr. Ransom? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Second the motion?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, number 38 passes unanimously. Going on to item number 37, discussion of possible action regarding approving the Mohave County Board of Supervisors 2016 meeting calendar. This is under our clerk of the board's name, and I think it's just a formality. So, Jenny, you want to explain to us what we have in front of us?
Actually, there's 2 options in front of you. It would be, one of the options is to go to 1 meeting a month, and the other is to continue with 2 meetings a month.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Watson?
Yes, I'd like to look at option B, because some of these meetings that we've had have been running late in the afternoon with 2 a month. So I'd hate to see us move from 2 to 1. I don't know that anybody has the stamina to work with 1 meeting a month. It'd be pretty trying. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to adopt option B.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion? Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by stating yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and I'll vote to approve item B with a vote of 4 to 1. Okay, going on to item number 38. This will start for executive session, but we still have to take some action on that. So that was the discussion of possible action regarding the development of specific questions to be submitted to Jeffrey Burnick of Jackson Lewis to determine the legal parameters of the board's authority to make policy changes to employee benefits, including leave policies. So we need a motion on that.
Madam Chair, I'll move that we employ Jeffrey A. Burnick to provide the board a written opinion based upon the questions posed to him this morning.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
And I am opposed as well, so it's 3-2, and it does pass. Going on to item number 39, discussion and possible action, reference waive the building permit fees totaling $318.84 or $106.28 each for providing electrical services to 3 houses impacted by the Willow Fire. Okay, do I have a
Madam
motion?
Chair, if I may make a brief presentation on this issue.
Yes, Supervisor Moss, you have the floor.
Yes, a nonprofit group by the name of River Fund has bought 3 telephone poles for purposes of restoring phone service along the areas of the Willow Fire that lost their telephone poles. My understanding is that MEC has waived certain fees associated with their installation of those poles. The River Fund requested or contacted me and requested that we waive the county fees because otherwise it will be coming out of the nonprofit River Fund's finances in order to pay those fees, and they thought it would be a nice gesture to the community. I agreed with them. I'm no longer certain as to the total status because I believe I got an email from County Administrator Hendricks on this issue, but I'd rather that River Fund use its money to support those who are in need as opposed to support county government on isolated issues like this.
Okay, thank you. County Administrator, or I'm sorry, Nick Hunt is coming to the podium. Good morning, Mr. Hunt.
Good morning. Madam Chair, I'd just like to provide additional information. The hookup fees are $106.28, but what I like to add the additional information, it might be more than 3 applicants. We had a 4th one Friday, and our emergency management coordinator gave me a list earlier that there could be potentially up to 12 properties. The fire district has a list of impacted properties, and Red Cross has a list of impacted properties, so that comes up with a total of about 12 properties. So I just wanted to add that additional information if the board considers give a waiver to 3. There was a 4th applicant, and it might be others that might be coming later. And we have, if the board decides to make any action on that I would suggest to use the list that was created by the fire district and the Red Cross.
Okay, I have a question. Have we done this before? Are we setting a precedence here, or have we done this before for other emergency wildland fires or other situations?
Madam Chair, yes, we have done this before in the past when people had extreme hardship and we waived fees, or In some instances, our staff came up with the fees, and actually we paid it, but we helped out people in the past, yes.
Okay, and this is a fee that the homeowner's insurance would not pay for?
This is basically a building permit fee, $106 for hook up the electric box and check the wiring. And I don't know whether the insurance will pay for it or not, but that's a very low fee. It takes one inspection from our inspectors, and that's what it is for.
Okay, well,
I
I
have
think
a
it's...
question, Madam Chair.
Yes, Supervisor Johnson.
Mr. Hunt, in my 19 years, I don't recall ever coming in front of the board and the board waiving these fees. Maybe your employees have paid for it, but I don't recall us doing it in the not too distant future, or the past. I don't believe we've done it. But just to clarify, I guess my concern is the same as the chairman is bringing up, that we start this now. We have a lot of people that lose houses, that have floods, that do all these things. And I think these people, while it's tragic what happened to them, there was fundraisers that have been put up there, a lot of donations to cover these, and I think we're setting a bad precedent if the county starts waiving fees.
If I could, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Moss, go ahead.
This is a fairly isolated incident, as this is destruction that came out of what has been declared a county emergency, which fortunately is a fairly rare event. We have to ask ourselves as a board, is it the position of the county to extract taxes or fees regardless of the hardship that our residents may be facing, or to recognize that from time to time it's the realm of the board, it's the purpose of this board and this county to help our residents, and sometimes that includes waiving fees. And I can't think of a better circumstance when it comes to damage that's not covered by insurance, and which is the result of what has been acknowledged by all as a county emergency.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Moss. Is there anyone else that has any comments or questions of Mr. Hunt?
I guess the only other question I would have is, there's no backup here. I see nothing from anybody regarding who wants this or who needs it or number of people.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, the backup I would suggest is that we have the fire district and the Red Cross that can verify which properties were damaged. And as I mentioned, then the lists are different, so it's 11 or 12 properties depending on the list.
And so I'm guessing these are people who did not have insurance.
That I don't know whether, how many had insurance and how many didn't. I just have this list that these are the properties. That could be limited to those people. So if the total amount, 12 properties, it could be total of about, I don't know, $1,300 at most dollars.
Excuse me, sorry about that.
Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. I have a great deal of concern over setting a precedent on waiving these fees, while at the same token recognizing the disaster. We face disasters on weekly and monthly around here due to the weather here lately. I don't recall ever in my district waiving the building permit fees. Is there an instance that we have, Director Hunt?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Watson, I stand corrected. Supervisor Johnson said that he doesn't remember. I don't remember waiving this specific fee, but I remember at least 2 occasions where our staff paid that fee for people in need. So that's what I meant by waiving. Specific building permit fees, I can't remember, but we have requests. I don't want to make a wrong quote. I think we may have waived fees in the past, but I don't know the instance.
Thank you, Director Hunt.
But I didn't. It was the board that I asked if I did.
I'm just going back through my memory on the disasters that occurred in the Beaver Dam area, where a number of residences were literally wiped out, and I don't recall that occurring. I'd be more than happy to make a personal donation, but I'm a little bit opposed to setting a precedent, because at what point do you measure the severity of the disaster and in going forward? That's really my concern.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Director Hunt? Okay, seeing none, I just wanted to state that I know that many of us attended the concert that was held down there to benefit the victims of this fire, other fundraisers I've seen on Facebook, and I know the Red Cross was very active, and I don't know if the Red Cross assists with expenses like this, but I like the other supervisors, Johnson and Watson, I'm concerned about setting a precedence, because we just had 2 church fires in Dolan Springs, and they're going to be rebuilding, and they're going to also want their permits waived, and I just think it's a dangerous precedence that we may not be able to afford. But I also would personally donate to these funds, but I don't think it's a precedence that should be held by the county. So I'll put it up for the vote, and I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the item of the agenda to waive the building permit fees for those impacted by the Willow Fire.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we do have a motion to approve. For a lack of a second, motion dies. Okay, seeing nothing else on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming out.